I'm Mark O'Brien, member of the Dominican Order of the Australian, New Zealand, Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinean Province. And I teach Hebrew Bible Old Testament at Catholic Theological College and at the Yarra Theological Union. These are both campuses within the University of Divinity, Melbourne, which is itself a restructuring of the old Melbourne College of Divinity, which overall is more than 100 years old. And I've thoroughly enjoyed it, been doing that now off and on for 30 years. I also taught for a number of years at the Catholic Institute of Sydney, part of the Sydney College of Divinity in Sydney. Also did some teaching at Blackfriars Hall in Oxford during a sabbatical, and at the National Catholic Institute of Theology in Karachi in Pakistan. Publications, well, my first book was my doctoral thesis, which I did under Tony Campbell, the Jesuit scholar, and that was published as the reassessment of the Deuteronomistic history hypothesis, and that was published by Van den Hoek and Ruprecht in Germany in 1989. Since then, Tony Campbell and I have worked on a number of projects. We published a book together on sources of the Pentateuch, subsequently another book on the Deuteronomistic history hypothesis, reconsidering that, and then a third book where we reassessed the whole notion of the composition of the Pentateuch and moved away fairly definitively from the notion of sources. And that book was called Rethinking the Pentateuch. I was provincial of the Dominican province for 2 terms, that's 8 or 9 years, been local superior at St Dominic's Priory in Melbourne. And in a sense that does reduce your time for writing. Published a number of articles, kept my teaching at Yarra Theological Union and Catholic Theological College. And my most recent publication was in 2014, that is a book called Restoring the Right Relationship, the Bible on Divine Righteousness. It's tzedakah in Hebrew, and I'd been teaching a course related to this major theological theme for a number of years, and I thought it was time to put my thoughts down on paper, and very grateful to ATF Press and Hilary Regan for accepting it for publication. This latest book that is soon to come out is called the Discerning the Dynamics of Jeremiah, chapters 1 to 25 in the Masoretic Text. It's regarded as the first half of the great book of Jeremiah, 52 chapters, and the Masoretic Text is somewhat different to the Greek Septuagint, which is based on another Hebrew manuscript. The Masoretic Text is longer, and the arrangement of a number of the passages is different. Discerning the dynamics of Jeremiah 1 to 25 is really paying particular attention to the context in which particular texts occur, the more immediate context, and then discerning indications of their relationship to the larger context. And as a result of this careful analysis of chapters 1 to 25, I've come to the conviction that chapters 1 to 25, and indeed the book of Jeremiah as a whole, is not a loose collection, not a rolling corpus, as one famous English scholar, McCain, called it, but I think it has been deliberately assembled, carefully assembled, to communicate some overall coherent message of the prophet's vocation and of how that unfolds and reveals God's prophetic word. And that's the thesis of this latest book.